In this video, I'm going to show you how you can set up this automation that will automatically export your Figma designs and save them to a Google Drive. This automation is going to allow us to take every single frame inside a specific Figma page, automatically export it, and save it to a specific Google Drive folder with the exact size and format that you need, either as an image or a PDF. To build this automation, we're going to be using make.com, which is a no-code integration platform, meaning that you won't need to write a single line of code or have any engineering background. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this video is I've been building automations using tools like Make and Zapier for more than 7 years. And the one tool that has always been the most trickiest to automate has been Figma. Its data structure can be quite overwhelming. Zapier doesn't even have a Figma integration, and Make's integration is missing all the main actions. So as soon as I finally cracked this automation, I knew I had to record a video and share it with you all. In fact, this is going to be a 2-part video series all around Figma automation. As mentioned, in this video, I'm going to show you the fundamental workflow to export your Figma designs and upload them to Google Drive. And then in part 2, we're going to go deeper and I'm going to show you a full Figma asset management system that I've set up in Airtable. This system will automatically sync Figma components between Airtable and Google Drive, which we can trigger directly within Figma. Now, there should be a link appearing right here to part 2 of the video, and I'll also leave a link in the description below. But right now, let's get into building out the fundamentals. All right, so to get started with Make, you can just head to make.com and sign up for their free plan. Or otherwise, if you use the link below, which is go9x.me/make, this is a special link that we have, which will give you 1 month free on their pro plan, and you don't even need a credit card. So you can just click the link below, fill out your details and sign up. Now, once you've signed up, you just want to click on scenarios in the top right-hand corner, click create a new scenario. So now that you've created your scenario, let's get started by importing the Make scenario blueprint. This is basically the blueprint I've prepared for you to make this super simple to set up. In the description below, you should find a link to download this blueprint. A blueprint is a specific feature of Make, which basically allows us to share automations with each other. So you can build an automation, download what's known as a blueprint, which is just a JSON file, share it with a colleague or a friend, and they can import it into their Make account. So make sure you have this one downloaded. So back in Make, in the scenario that you just created, just head to the bottom bar here where you find the 3 dots. We're going to click on More and then Import Blueprint. Select choose file, and here we want to basically grab that blueprint that you just downloaded, so the one you find in the link below, hit open and save, and this one will basically import that automation that I showed you at the start. And the way I've basically set this up, I want to make it incredibly quick for you to get that first success of being able to export a lot of Figma files and save them to Google Drive. And so all you need to do is this first module here, which is a tools module where we're setting multiple variables. Here I've just made it incredibly easy. You just need to provide these 3 bits of information: a Figma file key, a Figma node ID, and the Google Drive folder ID. And I'll show you during this setup how to get each of these. So that's step 1 done. We've successfully imported our Make scenario. So now let's move on to step 2, which is setting up the Figma connections. So in this imported Make scenario, just click into the first Figma module, and here you'll see that we need to create a connection. I'll click on this one and give this one a name. So in my case, I'll just call this one 9x Yan Figma connection and hit save. And this one is done using something known as OAuth, where basically on the next screen here, all I need to do is give Make permissions to access my Figma account. Now, very important, make sure that the account that you see here, with the account that you're logged in with, is the same account where the images are stored that you want to export. So here I'm just going to hit allow access, and you'll see Make is now verifying this connection, and that has successfully done it. And now you see that this first one is all set up for you. So one important point, what I mentioned at the start, if we search here for the Figma app, we can see here there's a couple of predefined actions that the team of Make or Figma have set up when they created this app. We can post a comment, list comments, look at some file version history, some project file, and list projects, but there's nothing here around exporting images. So we are using the custom Make an API call, but don't worry, both of these have already been set up for you. If anyone is interested, just head over to Google and check out Figma REST API. So if you are familiar with APIs and you're interested in the endpoints that I'm using, here in the REST API documentation, under Figma files, if we head to endpoints, the two API calls that we'll be making is the get file nodes call, and then also the get image. So first get file nodes and then the get image. But if you're not familiar with APIs, don't worry, all of this has already been set up for you. Now, we've set up the first connection in this Figma module here. What we also need to do is go to our second Figma module and basically just choose that connection that we have already set up. And you'll see here again, the API call has already been filled out for you. So we can just hit save on this one, and now we should be good to go. So step 2 done, setting up the Figma connection. So now let's go and find those 2 bits of information that I mentioned before that we need for our automation to run, which is the Figma file key and also the node ID. So for that, I'm going to head over to my Figma. Here I'm in the app and the desktop version. You can also do this if you're using Figma in the browser. I just want to quickly walk you through the, let's say the Figma page that I'll be using for this demonstration. So here you can see we have a page which has been created and maintained by our awesome designer, Justine, with a bunch of different SaaS tools or SaaS app logos that we use a lot at 9X, and we need to use these logos in, whether it's on our website, in different presentations, or in different social media posts that we create around AI and automation. So we try and keep this, let's say, logo database updated, and whenever there's a new tool that we want to communicate about, Justine will basically be creating it here and adding it. So to find in Figma, there's 2 bits of information, the file key and the node ID. I'm just going to make sure I'm not selecting any individual layer here and switch pages. So I'll go to this page and then back to the page where my apps are. And in the top right, I just want to hit share and then copy link. And let me just open up a text editor. So if I go here, text edit, and I'll make this one a little bit bigger for us to see, and I'll paste that URL in. What you'll see is in this URL, and this is if you're using it in the browser, you have access to it directly. This part here of the URL, everything that's after the design and before the name of the Figma file that we're working in, this is basically the Figma file key. And what I'll do is I'll go back to that logo database. And so remember here, I was just on the page and then hit the share button. If I select an individual layer now, so maybe I hit the Airtable app. So here I'm on my layer selected and then hit share. Again, copy link. I'll go back to that text editor and I'll just open this one up on a new line. So what you'll notice here is that the file key is obviously the same because I grabbed those links from the same file. What is different now though is if you see a parameter in this URL, we see after this question mark, we have node ID. And in the first case where I just grabbed the page, it was the node ID was 0 minus 1. And now when I've grabbed an individual element, the node ID is 2157 minus 5. So it's a very important concept to know that everything here in Figma, whether they are pages or even within a page, a specific layer on the page. So let me actually just grab now from the export tool logos. I'll hit share, copy link, open up that text editor and paste this one in again. We see the same file key, but here we have the node ID. And the node ID that we basically want to use in our automation should be what's known as the parent level. So in my case, what I want to do here is I want to grab in this thousands by 1000 logos transparent page, I want to grab every single top layer that's listed here, all of these individual app logos. So I don't want to grab an ID from an individual layer, but rather I want to make sure I'm grabbing that ID from the parent page. So in my case, that was the first link that I copied. So the node ID is going to be 01, and then this one's going to be the file key. So I'm going to copy these over now and head over to make and fill these in. So back in make, I'm just going to go and set these variables. So I've copied the file key, and then I've remembered that the node ID in my case is 0 minus 1. And this is the node ID of the specific page in Figma that I want to export all child layers from. Hit save. And now with those variables set, to test this out, first of all, to see if our first Figma call is working, I just want you to right click on here and hit unlink. So now we can run these first 2 steps without having the whole scenario run because we haven't configured the other steps in our automation yet. So let me just hit run once. And we can see now the variables were set and now our Figma call is being made. So let's take a look at, first of all, I can just walk you through here what we're setting up in our API call. Basically, we're just dynamically passing in that file key. So this is the specific URL from Figma's API documentation that we want to get the file nodes. So this is going to be dynamically taking the file key that we set here. And then last of all, we need to say from that file, which nodes do we want to basically take a look at? And do we want to list all of their child nodes? And that is the node ID from this first step. So if I look at the results, we can open up the body and now we'll basically get some information about the file we're looking at, which is again, successfully here, our logo database. I know I'm in the right file. If I now go to open up this nodes, you'll see here, this is the ID of my specific node, 0 - 1. And now it's basically in the API, it changes it to 0 and then this $1. And we can open up the document and now we get the information about the specific layer. So in my case, if I head back over to Figma here, you see the page that I'm looking at is this 1000 by 1000 logos transparent, and that is the 01 node. And to basically now get access to all of these layers underneath here, you can see these top level layers, we just need to look inside the children element. So here, if I open this up, and you'll see there are a lot of different collections here, and let's take a look at the first one. And see here we get basically that first child layer, which in our case is the Airtable logo. And so what we can do now in future steps, what we're going to do is loop through these child records, this array of Figma layers, and be able to download each individual one. So we can download the Airtable logo, then the next one will be the AutoCode logo, and we can basically dynamically pass this ID. All right, so we've successfully found the file key and also the node ID and tested that that works. Now we can move on to the next part, which is setting the image format and the size, basically saying, how do we want to export these individual images? And basically in Make, these settings you can find in this second API call here, which is using the get image endpoint. I'm just going to reconnect this one and let me quickly tell you about what this iterator is doing. So as you saw here in the first result we get from Figma, we're getting an individual node, that 01, which is basically our page here, our 1000 by 1000 logos transparent page, and it has several children. And this is what's known as an array. And we have many items here. What we want to do is basically loop through each of these for every, like let's say child node of this page. I want to then go and do the second API call, which is getting the image. And for that, what we need to do is use an iterator. And I've already set this one up that it's basically going to dynamically take that children array. So really, this is a bit of a technical build, but what's great with this blueprint, it's all already set up for you. So in this get image call, what we're now doing, again, we need to use the Figma file key from the first step, but in the settings, instead of using the node ID of the page, we're basically going to be dynamically taking the ID of this iterator step. Now, right now you can see here, this is sort of not really filled in because Make hasn't seen this yet. All right, guys, so something I realized actually is that in order for Make to be able to actually see the different steps that this iterator is going to receive, and I will actually update this template. So probably the template, if you're watching this, that you imported will have an adjusted step, which I'm about to add. So since here, I'm using a make function to actually get the array. So the way this iterator step works is I need to give it an array. And this needs to be dynamic because depending on your Figma node ID, where we get this array from is going to change. Now I can know that this is probably way too technical to get into, but all I'm going to do is instead of having this formula here, what I'm going to do is again add a variable for. So I'm just going to use the set multiple variables. This will be included in the template that you import. And let me just rename this one to like set Figma frames array, and we'll give this variable a name, and this will be Figma frames array. And now I'm going to paste in that formula. So this is where the array will be created. And if I save and unlink this one, and let me run this once to test it again. Awesome, so that worked. And you see here now in our array, this has those all of those bundles, all we're doing is basically getting whatever comes from this Figma call, the nodes here, because this 01 is the node ID I'm currently using. Yours might be 257 minus 6, 258 minus 9. So this needs to be dynamic. So that's why we need to use this formula here that's going to dynamically grab whichever node ID you're using. And now when I connect this one up, this iterator, all I'm going to do here is basically map this to this Figma frames array. And as soon as I do that, now if I look at the get image, we see that the ID is filled in and we can see now all the placeholders. So that should make it a lot easier. And now let's continue with setting the image file and format that we wanted to do. So to set this image file and format, if we go into here, the Figma API call module, you see here, we again using this API call, it's using the Figma file key that we set here. We're now dynamically passing whichever ID we're currently looping through. So whichever like frame layer that we're currently on. And then I have two options here. So I can set my format and also set my scale. So format can be one of four. So you could have PNG, you can use SVG, JPEG or PDF. And by default, the scale will always be 1. So when you import this, this will be 1, or also if you don't actually set this parameter. And let me show you in Figma where you can actually find these settings, just to give you an idea. So in Figma now, imagine if I'm grabbing this Airtable logo, and if I were to export it, so if you don't see this at the bottom right, you can just add export. And here you have those two options. So which format do I want to download it? And also what is my scale? And what it means by that, right now, this image is 1000 pixels by 1000 pixels. So scale 1 means that it's going to be 1000 by 1000. If I make this 2x, it's going to be 2000 by 2000. Or if I make this 0.1, it's going to be 100 by 100. So in my make scenario, I'm actually going to set 0.1 because I have actually already done this export for 1000 by 1000. So I have all my Google Drive, all my images saved to Google Drive in the full format, but maybe it might be useful to have the smaller format also saved there. And again, before we move on to the next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to test this out. Really important, test every step as you do it. So to do that, I'm going to unlink after this one. So what I want to see happen is it's going to make the first API call, list all my layers. Then here it's going to loop through all of those 500 images and then do the Figma call to get each of those images. Now, when testing, I probably don't want to run this for all 500 because it will take a long time. So there's a little trick. What I can do here is if I click in between this path here where you see the little tool, I can click here and add a filter. And the filter that I'm going to use, what the iterator gives us is the current bundle order position, saying what bundle are we currently on. And what I want to do is I'm going to use that and I'm going to say bundle less than 5. So what this one's going to do is just take the first 4 bundles and do this action. So let me hit save and run this one. Awesome, and we can see now we're getting the image. Let's take a look at the results, and this is now stopped. We've run this successfully for the first 4 bundles. And if we look in here, you see then every bundle after that basically didn't match the filter. So let's take a look at the results, and how this one works is we have to go into the body of the response. It gives us 2 parameters. We have an error ERR parameter, which is empty. So that means it was successful. We're able to export this image. And then we have this images collection. And inside the images collection, how this one works, and again, this gets into the complicated Figma data structure, is we get the key here is always going to be the node ID of the frame that we're currently downloading. Why this makes it very annoying to do in tools like Make, because it makes it very hard for us to map this later on. Here in the first image, the ID, the key that we need to map is 21575. If I take a look at the next bundle that ran, again here in images, we can see it's a totally different key. Now it's 2252314. But what it's giving us is a URL. So if I take this one and if I open this up, what this should be, if I remember correctly, that first bundle was basically our Airtable image. And you can see here now perfectly, it's a 100 by 100 exported version. If I save this, this would be a PNG of that Airtable logo. Now, one very important thing to know is that these URLs that are generated, they basically last for 30 days. So this URL is created. You can't basically use this URL to share it on a website because after 30 days, this link will no longer work. So what we need to do in our make scenario is basically download the image and then upload it to Google Drive so it is saved. So with that, we've successfully set the image format and size that we want to download it, and we've tested it. We see that we get that URL where we've properly exported the image. So now we need to move on to the last part, which is the creating the Google Drive folder. And I'll also then show you how to get the folder ID of that folder. So as I said before, what I've already done in Google Drive is export all of these images using the same make scenario in their full format. So 1000 by 1000, scale equals 1. But what I want to do now is also have, sometimes we only need to use the image in a smaller size. So I'm going to create another folder called logos 100 by 100. And when we create a folder, let me click into it. And the way we access the folder ID, very similar to Figma, is by using the URL. So here you'll see when you open up, when you're in the folder on Google Drive, you see everything that comes after /folders, this sort of ID here, that is the folder ID. So what I can simply do is copy this one, and over in my make scenario, I need to do two things now. So first of all, I'm going to connect this one. Then we need to first set up our Google Drive connection. And here, very similar to Figma, I'm just going to click create a connection and give this one a name. So I'll call this one 9x Yan Google Drive. And hit sign in with Google. We don't need to worry about API keys here. It's super simple. Just gonna sign in with the Google account that I'm using and make sure this is again the same Google account that has access to the folder where you want to upload the files. Otherwise this will not work. What I'm doing here is giving make permissions to see, edit, create, and delete all of your Google Drive files. So really important you understand that through automation, you can do a lot of powerful things, but it might also have some powerful consequences. So I've now set up my Google Drive connection, and thanks to the blueprint, all of this is already filled out for you. So what this is going to dynamically do is take the Google Drive folder ID. So what I need to do, I need to go over to this first variable and fill in that Google Drive ID that I just copied. So this is the Drive ID, and this the one will now basically dynamically update here. So if, for instance, you need a new Google Drive, you'd basically create a new one and then just update the folder ID here, or if you want to, you can just map it in this area directly, but this is a nice way to make it very simple for you. Now, I just want to explain quickly this getting the file step. So all this is doing is here we're using the HTTP module in Make, and there's an action called get a file, downloads a file from a given URL. So I'm again using this get function here to basically say, hey, from the, let me just run this one more time so we can see the data. So from the results that we get in this image collection, the first one, the ID is 21575, and we can see that basically lines up to the ID of the first bundle. And this will repeat for every single bundle. So all that this get parameter is doing is saying, hey, from this image collection that we get, find the key that has that specific ID and just find the URL. And what that will then do is it will download the file, and here in the upload to Google Drive step, this is automatically mapped. So now that that is done, we can move on to the final piece, which is probably the most exciting. We can run the full scenario and test out if this is working. But before I do that, in my case, I do need to adjust these filters. So I'm going to remove this to say, hey, I don't want to just download the first 4, but I want to download all of them. But actually what I need to do is if I check out this Figma file that we have here, so this has all of the 500 different app logos that we currently work with. And to help us keep this file organized, we have a couple of things. First of all, we have these letters here on the left-hand side. Now you'll see here the layer name is just the name of the letter, and we don't actually want to download these layers. We only want to download these components that start with apps/1000. But what we also have, if I zoom in here on B, we also have, just to make it easy for us to add new logos, we have these placeholders here. So all of the placeholders at the end of every letter, if I also go to the A column, you'll see it here. It just basically says /name. So what I want to do is I want to add some filters to make sure we're only getting those valid logos. So I'm going to actually copy over this /name, and we're going to use that in our filter. So in Make, what I'm going to do is instead of doing this based on the bundle order position, I want to filter based on the name of the element. And you can see here the one it's suggesting is actually one of those placeholders that we want to get rid of. So I'm going to say where the name, I'm going to do two things. First of all, I'm going to say where the name starts with, and paste this one in and just remove the name. So where the name starts with apps 1000 by 1000 and the name, again, the name does not equal. So here we say not equal to /name. So this is going to ensure that we're only grabbing from Figma the app names that have the right structure. So now I can basically give this label a name as well to make it easier. I'm just going to say valid logos and save. So in your case, if you only want to export certain naming conventions or certain IDs, you can play around with these logos here. But now the moment of truth, let me run this one and see if this is working. So here we see our scenario is now going. Now this is involving exporting, downloading and uploading files. So this does take some time. So you can see this one's ticking along. It's sort of every second or so we're uploading one new file to our Google Drive. So this will take some time to complete for the 500 images that we need to upload. But the great thing is this can really run in your sleep. So let's take a look. We've now already added 6 logos here. Let's have a look if they're coming into our Google Drive folder. And here we can see those first few. And as I refresh, we see more and more logos appearing. And I can even put this in the list view to see that whenever, like how quickly, this will just basically add more and more logos now to our database. So this is something that is really powerful, being able to now finally automate Figma and automate the export of the files. Now, some of you may have noticed this automation does have one limitation. If tomorrow I was going to add a new logo to my database and I run this scenario again, we'll be saving that new logo to the Google Drive, but we'll also be re-uploading all the other 500 logos and causing a bunch of duplicates. So that's why, as I said, this is a 2-part video. If you're interested, click here now. In part 2, I'm going to show you how you can set up a full Figma asset management system in Airtable. This system is going to handle all the complex logic of ensuring that we only create new files in Google Drive when a new file in Figma is created. I'll show you how you can use Figma webhooks to trigger this sync directly from Figma, and also how to update existing files using the asset management system. So if that's interested, check out part 2. It's in the description below as well. Otherwise, if all you wanted was to see how you can export this data and save it to Google Drive, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please give this video a like and also subscribe to our channel for more of these automation tutorials.